rain hammered against the funeral home window like it was trying to drown out the lies inside that stuffy room. I sat there, my fingers numb from clutching Grandma Rosa's favorite rosary beads, the ones she'd pressed into my palm just weeks before. Her voice a fragile whisper. Elena, mi niña, you're the heart of this family. Don't let them forget that. But as the lawyer's voice droned on, reading her will, my world cracked open. Everything. The cozy bungalow in Queens, the nest egg from decades of pinching pennies as a seamstress, the antique brooch she'd worn on her wedding day. All of it, handed to my Uncle Victor on a silver platter. The man who'd barely visited her in the nursing home, who snuck around with his mistress while Aunt Lydia slaved away at 2 jobs. And there he sat, smirking across the table, his Rolex glinting like a taunt. Family's family, right, Elena? Guess blood wins out. Blood boiled in my veins, a hot flush creeping up my neck, my nails digging crescents into my palms. But in that moment, as tears blurred the will's ink, a fire ignited deep in my chest. Not just rage, but resolve. What if I could honor her real legacy? What if I turned his greed into the greatest gift she'd ever dreamed of? Stick around, because this isn't just revenge, it's redemption. And by the end, you'll be cheering for every penny I gave away. Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Golden Torment, where we turn Reddit's rawest heartaches into stories that heal and hype you up. If you've ever felt that gut-wrenching sting of family turning their back when you needed them most, smash that like button right now. It tells me you're ready for justice served with a side of sisterhood. Drop a comment. Who's the family villain in your life? And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button and join the fam. We've got more empowering takedowns dropping all week. All right, let's dive into Elena's story, a tale that'll make you hug your loved ones a little tighter and plot a little smarter. Let's rewind to where it all began. Not with the will, but with the woman who wove us together, Grandma Rosa. She was the sun in our fractured sky, a tiny firecracker of a Cuban immigrant who'd fled Havana with nothing but a sewing kit and dreams big enough for all of us. Picture her in that cramped Queens apartment, the air thick with the scent of arroz con pollo simmering on the stove, her laughter bubbling like cafecito over mahjong tiles. Elena, Vida, she'd say, her arthritic hands cupping my cheeks. Family isn't blood, it's the ones who show up when the storm hits. I was 28 then, fresh out of nursing school, juggling night shifts at the hospital and weekends at her bedside as dementia started stealing her stories. Uncle Victor? He was the shadow in the frame. My dad's older brother. The successful one with the corner office at a midtown real estate firm. The flashy car. The wife, Aunt Lydia, who pretended not to notice the lipstick stains on his collars. Victor had always been the golden child. The one Dad idolized even as he drank himself into early graves. He's going places, Dad would slur, while Victor skipped holidays, sent checks instead of cards. But Grandma? She saw through the shine. I'd catch her muttering in Spanish during his rare visits, her eyes narrowing at his half-hearted hugs. Ese diablo con traje. The devil in a suit. And me? I was her shadow, the one who changed her bedsheets when the aides flaked, who played her old Celia Cruz records to coax smiles from the fog. You're my legacy, mija, she'd whisper, pressing that rosary into my palm, the wooden beads warm from her grip, rough against my skin like the calluses from her needlework. God, if only I'd known those words would become my armor. Fast forward to 3 months ago. The call came at 2 a.m., that piercing ring slicing through my sleep like a scalpel. Elena's grandma passed peacefully, the nurse said, her voice muffled by static. I drove through the blackout of Brooklyn streets, tires hissing on wet asphalt, my chest a hollow drum echoing with the what-ifs. Why didn't I visit yesterday? What if she'd needed me one more time? The funeral was a blur of black veils and murmured condolences, the church pews creaking under Aunt's sobs. Victor stood at the podium, dabbing dry eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, his eulogy a polished lie. Rosa was the rock of our family, selfless to the end. Selfless? He'd missed her last birthday, too busy closing a deal. I bit my tongue, tasting salt and bile as the casket lowered into the earth, rain pattering like unshed tears on the lid. Then came the reading. 2 weeks later in that funeral home parlor, velvet curtains heavy with dust, the air stale like forgotten grief. We gathered, Me, Aunt Lydia twisting her wedding band like a noose, cousins fidgeting with phones, and Victor, legs crossed, exuding that cologne-scented entitlement. The lawyer, a bespectacled man with a voice like rustling paper, cleared his throat. To Elena, my cherished granddaughter, I leave my mother's pearl brooch, a symbol of quiet strength. My throat tightened, fingers brushing the velvet box in my lap, the pearls cool and iridescent against my thumb. It's something, it's her. But then, the remainder of my estate, the property at 142 Elm Street, savings totaling $850,000, and personal effects, to my son, Victor Ramirez, in full. The room spun. Full? Victor's chuckle cut through the silence, low and smug, like gravel under tires. Well, that's a surprise, Ma. Always knew you had faith in me. Aunt Lydia's face crumpled, her knuckles whitening, but she said nothing. Years of swallowing his affairs had trained her silence. I stared at him, heat flooding my face, my pulse thundering in my ears. Faith? I whispered, voice cracking like thin ice. He leaned forward, eyes glinting. Come on, Elena. You're sweet, but let's be real. You're the caretaker type. Ma knew who'd make it count. Investments, you know? Family legacy. Legacy? You mean your Hamptons weekends with that paralegal half your age? The words burned unspoken, my nails gouging my thigh under the table, a sharp sting grounding the nausea rising like bile. As we filed out, Victor clapped my shoulder. Too hard, possessive. Don't worry, kiddo. I'll take care of things. Maybe throw you a bone for college funds or whatever. A bone. Like I was the stray dog at the family feast. That night, alone in my studio apartment, the brooch clutched in my fist like a talisman, I shattered. Curled on the cold linoleum, sobs racking my body until my ribs ached. The rosary beads scattering across the floor like spilled secrets. She saw me. She chose me with her stories, her trust. And he takes it all? For what? More lies, more mistresses? The injustice clawed at me, a raw wound festering with every memory of Victor's neglect. The Christmases he'd bail on, the nursing home bills I'd covered from my meager checks while he forgot to contribute. Powerless, invisible. But in the quiet after the storm, as dawn crept through the blinds in pale slivers, a whisper formed, what if I could make this right? Not for me, for her. The days blurred into a haze of hospital shifts and hollow routines. But that fire, it smoldered, fed by Victor's gall. First came the calls, his voice oily smooth over speakerphone family chats. Hey troops, just sold the bungalow. Quick flip, Ma would have wanted it modernized. Modernized? That house was her sanctuary, walls echoing with bolero rhythms and the clatter of her singer machine. Aunt Lydia cornered me at the next gathering, her eyes red-rimmed, whispering over lukewarm empanadas. He's got someone, Elena. Saw the texts. But what can I do? I hugged her tight, feeling her tremble like a leaf in wind, my own heart fracturing anew. Do? We fight. But how? Victor didn't stop at property. The investments started. Flashy lunches at Le Cirque, where he'd boast over foie gras, turning Ma's gift into gold, 7 figures by year's end. His laugh boomed, drawing stares, while I picked at my salad, the vinaigrette sharp on my tongue like accusation. And the women? God, the women. I'd pieced it together months before the will, late-night stakeouts after Lydia's tearful hints. There he was, slipping into the Warwick Hotel, arm around a brunette with legs like a runway, and a laugh that tinkled like cheap champagne flutes. Classy uncle, real family man, my stomach churned, bile rising as I snapped photos from the shadows, flash off, heart slamming against my ribs like a caged bird. But proof, it piled up. Hotel receipts in his trash, dumpster dive at 3 a.m., rain soaking my hoodie, the stench of rot mirroring my rage, flirty emails forwarded from his forgotten work laptop during a family cleanup at the old house. Miss our little secrets, V? So, Tara. Secrets. While Grandma faded alone, monitors beeping in sterile silence, the breaking point hit at Thanksgiving, or what was left of it. Victor hosted at his new pad, the bungalow, gutted and gleaming with marble counters that screamed excess. He raised a toast, glass sweating condensation onto the oak table. To Rosa, the woman who built us, We clinked, but his eyes flicked to his phone, buzzing with notifications. Later, as pie cooled untouched, he pulled me aside in the hallway, breath hot with scotch. "Look, Elena, I get it, you're hurting. But life's not fair. Ma picked me for a reason. You're the good one. Stay that way." His hand on my arm, squeezing just tight enough to bruise, patronizing smile twisting like a knife. "Good one? You mean the fool you all pity?" I yanked away, the sting blooming purple under my sleeve, whispering through gritted teeth. "She picked you because she hoped you'd change. But you're poison, Victor, and poison always spills." He laughed, barked it really. "Run along, nurse. Play hero with your bedpans." Alone in the guest bath, mirror fogged from my heaving breaths, I stared at my reflection, eyes wild, cheeks flushed, fists clenched until knuckles whitened. No more swallowing the shards. That night, poring over Grandma's old letters by lamplight, yellowed pages crinkling under my fingers, ink faded but fierce, I found it. A notarized codicil, tucked in her Bible like a hidden prayer. In event of undue influence, assets to benefit the community as I would. Education for girls like Elena, aid for immigrant elders. Undue influence? Oh, Victor had slathered it on, whispering sweet nothings during her foggy days, lawyers in his pocket. This is it, her voice echoing through me. Time to amplify it. My hands shook as I dialed a pro bono estate attorney at dawn. The phone slick with sweat, voice steady for the first time in months. I need to fight. For her. From there, it was war. Quiet, calculated, the kind Grandma would have nodded at over her cafecito, eyes twinkling with mischief. I quit burning out at the hospital for freelance consulting. More time to dig, less exhaustion dragging my bones. Nights dissolved into a frenzy. Coffee bitter on my tongue, cooling in mugs stacked like accusations. Laptop fan whirring like a conspirator as I cross-referenced Victor's dealings. One thread at a time, Elena. Unravel the web. The affairs were the hook. Tara wasn't alone. There was Carla from accounting, emails dripping honeyed deceit. V, your wife's clueless. Let's make this weekend ours. But deeper? Embezzlement. Victor's firm. He'd siphoned client funds for personal loans, receipts vanishing into offshore shadows. I traced it through public records, palms clammy on the mouse, heart stuttering as PDFs loaded, $200K here, $150K there. Greed's your grave, uncle. Dig deeper. The attorney, sharp-eyed Ms. Torres with a no-nonsense bob and a tattoo of La Virgen peeking from her cuff, became my war counsel. Over Zoom calls, her voice crackling with resolve, we'd map it. Undue influence is provable. Isolation, manipulation during vulnerability. Pair it with moral turpitude. Charities love a clean sweep. Moral turpitude? Victor's parade of mistresses. The forged signatures on Grandma's accounts. We filed the contest quietly. No headlines. Just legal grenades lobbed into his mailbox. His reaction? A barrage. Voicemails slurring fury. "You ungrateful bitch. This is family." Each one a gift. Recorded and time-stamped. His voice cracking like thin ice under boot. "Aunt Lydia?" She cracked first, slipping me a USB over coffee at a dingy diner, steam rising like ghosts between us. His safe codes, I can't anymore. Her hands trembled, rings loose on fingers thinned by worry. "Lydia, you're free now. We all are." Execution brewed over weeks, a slow simmer turning to boil. I rallied the cousins, hushed group chats pinging in the dead of night. He's lying about the will. Grandma wanted better. Evidence packets mailed anonymously. Photos of hotel trysts, grainy but damning, bank trails glowing red in spreadsheets. Victor squirmed. I could feel it even miles away. A frantic call to Dad's old number bounced to me. "Elena, whatever you're doing, stop. This hurts the family." "Hurts? Like you hurt her, alone in that bed?" My reply, calm as a scalpel. "Family? We're redefining it, Victor. For her." Internally? Terror gnawed. What if I lose? What if I'm the villain? But Grandma's rosary, looped around my wrist like a bracelet, beads pressing into my pulse, whispered back, "Strength, mija. For the greater good." The courtroom smelled of polished wood and desperation, July heat pressing through tall windows, air thick enough to choke on. It was probate hearing day, the gallery sparse. Aunt Lydia pale as porcelain in the front row, cousins flanking her like sentinels, Victor at the defense table, tie askew, eyes darting like a cornered rat. Ms. Torres rose, her heels clicking like gunfire. Your Honor, we contest on grounds of undue influence and fraud. The decedent, Rosa Ramirez, was lucid in intent, as evidenced by this codicil. She slid it across, paper whispering against oak. Victor's lawyer, a weaselly type with a comb-over, blustered, "Baseless." Victor was his mother's confidant. Confidant? I nearly laughed, the sound bubbling hot in my throat. But then Ms. Torres unleashed the flood. Confidant? Or con artist? Non-projector hummed to life, screens flickering with evidence, hotel keycards time-stamped during Grandma's hospital stays, bank wires to VR discreet escapes, Tara's deposition video playing, a nervous brunette twisting Kleenex, voice quavering. He said it was all above board. But the money, it just vanished. Gasps rippled. Aunt Lydia's hand flying to her mouth, a sob escaping like a dam breach. Victor? He deflated, shoulders slumping, sweat glistening on his upper lip as the embezzlement spreadsheets bloomed. Columns of red ink totaling $450,000 pilfered. Look at you now, golden boy. Tarnished tin. His face mottled crimson, veins bulging at his temples as he hissed to his lawyer. This is bullshit. She's framing me. But the judge, a stern woman with silver streaks and eyes like flint, leaned forward. Mr. Ramirez, your moral character is compromised. Petition to redirect assets to charitable intent granted. In accordance with the codicil. The gavel cracked, thunder in that hushed hall, and Victor lunged up, chair scraping like nails on chalkboard. You little... He whirled on me, eyes wild, spittle flecking his lips. Elena, you did this? For what, spite? Ma would have hated you. Hate? The word hung, venomous. But I rose slow, deliberate, the rosary warm against my wrist, my voice steady as bedrock. No, Victor. She'd hate what you became. This isn't spite, it's her wish. Education for girls like me, homes for elders like her. You stole her trust. I'm giving it back to the world. The room blurred. Flashes from a lone reporter. Lydia's quiet clap swelling to cousin's murmurs. But Victor crumpled, sinking into his seat, face ashen, whispering brokenly, Lydia, please. She turned away, chin high, and for the first time I saw her, really saw her, unbreakable. Outside, under a sky finally cracking blue, the weight lifted, my knees buckled against the courthouse steps, tears streaming hot and free, not grief, but glory, chest expanding with breaths deep and clean, like surfacing from depths. We did it, Abuela. Your legacy lives. The estate cleared in weeks. Bungalow sold for fair market. $850K liquidated. Brooch auctioned for $12K. Every cent funneled to the Rosa Ramirez Foundation. Launch Gala? A sunlit community center in Queens, air alive with marimba beats and the chatter of wide-eyed scholarship girls in starched uniforms. I cut the ribbon, scissors cold in my grip, cameras clicking as the first check, $862,000, handed to the director, her eyes shining. In her name. For the dreamers. Victor? Disbarred whispers, divorce papers served mid-meltdown, his empire evaporating like mist. Last I heard, he's crashing on a cousin's couch. Pride pickled in regret. Sweet justice, served warm. In the end, revenge isn't about destruction. It's reconstruction. Elena didn't just take back what was stolen. She built something unbreakable, proving that one woman's resolve can echo louder than a lifetime of lies. Karma? It's not blind. It's got Grandma Rosa's eyes watching, waiting for the good ones to rise. Whew! If Elena's epic stand gave you goosebumps and a grin, hit that like button harder than Victor hit rock bottom. Tell me in the comments. What's the most epic family justice you've witnessed or plotted? I read everyone, promise. And if stories like this fuel your fire, subscribe now. Ring that bell for notifications, and let's keep the comebacks coming. Thanks for riding this wave with me. You're the real MVPs. See you in the next tale of triumph. Stay fierce!